is art?
It is the way I speak and relay my experiences and my thoughts.
Art is life.
It's freedom to just explore things around you.
To me, it's just about letting what's inside of me come forward.
Art is VisArts.
VisArts is a comprehensive arts center. We reside under one roof, but we have a lot of things going on.
Thank you.
We have education programs, and we educate from 5 years on up. There's no end there. We have resident artist studios, so we have working professional artists within the building. A lot of classes, workshops in a lot of different disciplines, such as glass, photography, wood, ceramics, painting and drawing, and the digital arts. The programs that we provide here, and I think this is what is unique about us, they're not just art programs, they're youth development programs, they're skill building, they are leadership programs.
Art is just another mode of learning. You know, not everybody is academically oriented, and the skills that you use in art are organizational skills. They tap your creativity. It's another way for a child to succeed. Children can learn so many things through the arts, so many of the critical learning skills. We provide after-school programs, art programs, for many schools in Montgomery County. Having been a Montgomery County art teacher for 35 years, I understand the needs of the program.
So instead of just a visual arts center, we do a lot of things that encompass some of the other disciplines. You will find an inclusion in our camp programs of math, of science, of writing. So it's very important to keep the community involved and make sure that our programs meet the community's needs. Some of the more unique programs are our foray into the digital world.
At VisArts in the digital department, we've got graphic design, web design, animation, including 3D animation, which is really hard to find. We take digital designs and screen print them onto t-shirts. We do music production, and anything that's really fun and artistic and involves a computer or technology, we're on it. The cool thing is that in our daily lives, we're always watching videos, seeing animations, seeing print advertising, or all this stuff, and websites. And so we teach people, especially youth, to not just be consumers of digital media, not just to listen to a song or download a web page, but to be producers, to make their own game, to make their own website or song or animation. And the pride that comes with that and the benefits to professional life is just really amazing. A really unique program in the digital arts department is the youth design team. And the youth design team is formed from interns from all over Montgomery County, and high school students come here and they get intensive training in web design, video production, and screen printing t-shirts. And then each area of that team produces work for real clients in the area, small businesses, nonprofits, things like that. They produce a professional portfolio by the time that they're done here. And they've gone on to get hired and have learned all kinds of new skills that they would not learn anyplace else.
We can come in here.
Our photography program is also very unique. We're one of the largest in the Washington area.
Photography here at VisArts is multifaceted. We've got a tremendous facility here. And with that, we have the ability to do a lot of different things. We have digital photography, we have traditional darkroom photography, we have a shooting studio, as well as tons and tons of classes, workshops. This is a visual arts center. Our mission is to create and foster the visual arts, and our instructors are amazing. We have some of the best instructors on the East Coast and from across the country that come and visit. So with that, the students get to work with the best equipment in one of the best studios with the best teachers. Don't look that way. Look this way. When young students come here, they can go through our program and a lot of our classes and really come out on the other side prepared to do work, you know, in the real world. What I'm proud of here at VisArts to be part of this is that we have so many options. We have open studio hours where you don't have to be, you know, a student here. You can just come in, have some darkroom experience, and there's always a, you know, a professional monitor on duty who helps people, whether they're advanced or intermediate or, you know, beginners. And so that's one of the things I think is really cool about VisArts. The other thing that we have is that we have a shooting studio that can be rented for, you know, weddings, you know, wedding photography, portrait photography, and we have a lot of ways to reach the community and offer, you know, what VisArts has as a facility, because it's really, you know, an amazing facility.
We have a gallery and exhibition program that has 3 galleries and a children's discovery gallery.
The exhibitions kind of lend a backbone almost to the programming here. We bring in outside artists, we display the artwork. We're open to the general community for free almost every day. When you think of galleries, a lot of people tend to think of them as the temple on the hill. It's something that the common person doesn't always find interesting. We don't want to be the temple on the hill, we want to be the town square. It's more about the conversation that the art generates rather than the actual artwork itself. We look for artists that are relevant to contemporary art, to art history, and have a strong either conceptual or visual element to them.
When you curate an exhibit, curating means when you're going to organize it and put it together, you start off with a concept. What is the initial idea that you want to explore? And then you go looking for artists and artwork that will help explain that concept or define it to the public. So when we put an exhibition together, there are elements that we consider that ideally we wouldn't want a visitor or public to be conscious of, but we need to manipulate those so that it helps focus the visitor's attention on the artwork. For example, you may not be aware that there have been studies done as to how long people spend in front of each work that's on display. The amount of time is 3 seconds. So what can a museum or a gallery do that's going to help them focus more attention on something that this artist has poured their whole soul and attention to? So grouping is one of the things we do. This artist has 3 pieces made out of the same material, created at the same time, using techniques that are very similar, so it makes sense to group them together. Choices could have been to angle this one diagonally and then this one diagonally, or stagger them as she chose to do in these 3 stages. But yet each piece also stands as an artwork on its own frame. Same concept applies to the photographs done here, whereas when the artist brought these in, before we knew how we were going to hang this exhibit, the 3 photographs were leaning up against the wall, and these 2 horizontal ones were on either side of the vertical piece. And we debated, should we take 2 horizontals and put them on top of each other with the vertical next to it? Should it be horizontal, vertical, horizontal? And then we looked at the content of what's going actually on in the photographs and realized that to emphasize the peak that you see in this piece, it made sense to put it above the other 2. There also is a general rule of thumb that 60 inches from the ground is average eye level, which happens to be about where my eye is. So we tend to hang things so that your average eye level is about the middle. Well, this breaks that general rule of thumb because there are 3 pieces here. But everything else that you see on the wall, the middle of that artwork is about the average eye level. Now, of course, it doesn't work for children or people in a wheelchair. So adjustments are made depending on who you think your audience is going to be. Another element that we use is lighting, and this is usually one of the most dramatic ways to be able to focus people's attention. And when you don't see it, you can understand the difference. So when this piece was decided how to lay out the large bird and the other birds flying around, the shadows of the wings is as important an element as the actual piece itself. So let me show you what I mean by that. We have 2 spotlights on this work. If I reduce the light from 1, you can see if it adds or takes away from the 3-dimensional effect. And by putting the light back on, you can see how that helps create the idea that these are actual birds flying. They are not so flat anymore. Even though when the public comes in to visit an exhibit, the title is usually the first thing they see, it may be the last thing that a curator or the artist think about in terms of the actual words they're going to use. Remember, I mentioned that we start with a concept and organize the exhibit around that concept. But it doesn't mean you're going to use the words that you have used for that concept. You have to now think, this is my bridge between the public who's coming in and my work. So by saying unique visions, it has kind of a multiple role. You're representing a number of different artists who all work in different media and different subject matters, and yet at the same time, they all have a vision. So even though it's unique to each of them, they each all share that creative process.
The 2 most important things in the gallery are the artwork and also the people that come see it. And we definitely want to make sure that we're challenging and celebrating both of those 2 things. We don't do any solo exhibitions, we do all group exhibitions. And the exhibitions we bring in are especially designed to appeal to the community as well as the artists that we have here.
Well, in VisArts, for example, we have the advantage of having this particular series of galleries opposite artists who actually work in their studio. So visitors can see the creative process, have a chance to talk to the artist about what is the thinking that's going on in their mind, what decisions are they making, what problems are they solving, in order for them to reach their message, their particular idea that they have invested in that one piece.
I do a lot of things with found objects, as you will see, and I love to find something that someone has thrown away and is not going to use anymore and create it into a different way. And this was from a can, I don't even know where it was from, but I wrap them in silver and I put a silver back on them and I set them. I'll see something that's interesting and then I'll try to figure out what to do with it in some way. It doesn't even have to be a piece of jewelry, but it could be something, some other way of using it. Beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. I mean, to me, a tree is artistic when it's blowing in the wind.
The importance of art is the creativeness. You create the things, you know, based upon what you have seen, your experience. And you have complete freedom to do it. You don't have to follow any pattern as long as you feel it's artistic. I did Chinese calligraphy. At that time, when I was a boy, it was required. You know, all the school kids supposed to practice. And later on, I'm not just stop at the level that's for practical purpose, but I like that calligraphy as a form of art. So gradually, I come to the painting field. This type of society, everybody, you know, rush here, rush there, so much tensions, you know. You turn to be a machine yourself, or to speak, or you become a screw of a machine. Yeah. So you every day you're screwed up. Now, you know, in art, well, you don't feel that way. Yeah, you find yourself. You find yourself. You're no longer a part or screw of any machine.
I was a business person. I worked as a government contractor for a number of years and wasn't too terribly thrilled with that, and ended up taking classes a little bit as a lark. The last business job that I had, I disliked it so much, I whined it to my husband and I said, "Please get me out of here." He said, "Honey, you do what you want to do." And I said, "Okay." So that's what I did. So I've been at this professionally for about 12 years now. Most of the work, most of my stained glass, the ideas come from the client. More often than not, they do have a picture in their mind of what they want. It's a rare client that comes in and says, I have no idea what I want, but I know I want stained glass. And if that is the case, I have a lot of pictures and a lot of previous work that I can show them. I've done probably about 2,000 panels, so I've got a fairly decent body of work. Fused glass is a little different because I do speculation work for fused glass, meaning I make production pieces and I make sculptures, one-of-a-kind kind of pieces for either shows or sales in stores. That inspiration, it's a good question. Where does that come from? That comes from, well, usually seeing something that I like to see.
I just think that there's just so many different things you can do with glass. There's stained glass, which is what my studio partner does, and that's the lead and cane that you see in church windows. And I do fused glass, which means you take, if you can see the glass over here, these sheets of glass, you cut it up, and you make your designs on it, and then it's fused together in a kiln. And then after it's fused together, you can take a mold and it will then slump into the shape of the mold, like you see these here. So that was once fused flat, and then it was put in a clay mold, and then it slumped into the shape of the mold. I usually take a drawing and I'll draw out what I want, to create. So I'll have an idea in my head, and a lot of times while you're making it, it just takes a life of its own. I think I just look around and I look at what other people are doing, and then I have a bunch of books like everyone does on design and a lot of the famous impressionists and other artists that you see that you love, and you just draw inspiration from that or from nature.
I do a lot of, I guess you'd call it environmental portraiture. I have a book here that I've been 4 times to Tibet, been to China a lot of times, and that's where I've done a lot of photography in Asia, and also in Europe too. I like to photograph the people as they're going about their daily life, as opposed to the setup portrait. I backed into photography. I came to it at a late age. I started out because I loved to travel, and I went on trips, and finally I thought, okay, I should record something. So I bought a camera. Next trip, I took pictures. They were awful, so I thought, well, I guess I better learn. I took my first class, and I just fell in love with photography when I saw that image come up in the tray. This was darkroom.
I never really saw myself as being a photographer, and I liked to take pictures as a child, and then for high school graduation I got my first real SLR at the time. Something I always liked, but I went and got an undergrad in finance and an MBA, and I sort of did the whole business route for many, many years. I just liked cameras and photos and pictures. And it never occurred to me I could actually be an artist, and I just never saw that as a career. I am the kind of photographer where I'll sort of just put myself into any situation, and it did start out being landscapes, but now I do some urban street shooting and I do some still lifes. And I'm much more likely to just put myself into a situation and really work very hard to go in without any preconceived ideas. I just want to let something sort of speak to me.
A lot of what I do has to do with taking reference photos. I'm not a photorealist. I tend to have kind of a surreal nature to my work, so what I see in a photograph might not be what ends up on canvas. For me, it's like breathing. It's like the one thing that I know how to do, and it's the one thing that fulfills the need that I have to be creative. When it's the one thing that you focus on, when it's the one thing that makes you happy, the joy is constant, whether you're taking reference photos or going to look at flowers in the spring or whatever. Everything's inspiring, and everything is a part of the creative process, so it's a very joyful life.
My old job, my other life, was as an illustrator, and I worked in an art office. I was an illustrator for a video company, and I always dressed up. suits and dresses and such, and I loved jewelry. I didn't make a whole lot, so I couldn't really afford to buy the jewelry I loved, and I thought, well, you know, maybe I can learn to make it. I have a line of repoussé, which is freehand hammering. That is birds and animals and fish. I also have a line of jewelry that I've just begun. I've only completed 3 pieces, and that is called the Portrait Series. It is work with portraits of animals and birds and butterflies and such. And out of those 3 pieces, 2 of them were juried in a show at the Strathmore, the Creative Craft Council show. And one of them won the Washington Guild of Goldsmiths Award, which I am so proud of. I just screamed when they announced it, so I was really thrilled.
The passion is within everybody here at VisArts. Everybody loves the arts, they love the people they work with, and they love the community that they work with. And it's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun work too. And I think people go above and beyond their jobs here at VisArts because they just do love it so much.
Art is life. Art is my life. And if you have an open mind and are willing to experiment and let go, art can be your life too.